Chinyere. Thank you for having us. Congratulations are in order, I believe. Your victory at the courts, I went through, I followed your remarks and how vehement your stance were. So, judging from that position, what will you say, you as a lawmaker in the House of Representatives, what laws do you think can be introduced to strengthen our electoral experience such that maybe many of these our elections don't have to resort to electoral litigations?
Oh. Well, I think going by the legislative agenda that have been released by the Abbas leadership, it lays emphasis on series of reforms that need to be carried to get the Nigeria of our dream, part of which is electoral reform. And the agenda talks about, after the experiences of the electoral process, that the 10th House have to look at those errors that have been noticed or those loopholes as has to do with the election proper and the post-election issues, especially the litigations, and be able to amend the electoral law to take care of those problems. And also on the personal level, some of those problems include how do we protect the sanctity of the power of the people to choose and ensure that the decision of the people are respected, to avoid a situation whereby a 3-man panel sits in one particular place and then voice the sanctity of the people's ballot, which is, what I mean by that is that we must, in the amendment that we are proposing, even as individuals, we've already done those amendments, to ensure that anything that has to do with pre-election must end before the ballot. So that you don't have a situation whereby, like my own experience, people talking about venue of our PDP primary becoming an issue for somebody that I defeated, that's got 1 polling unit out of 346 polling units. A devastating defeat, very loud and powerful. Now we are arguing about the venue of the primary of our own party that he's not a member. And if care was not taken, he would have snatched victory that was not given to him by the people. So this amendment has to go to the root of anything that has to do with pre-election, primary, qualification, nominations, call it anything, whether the person have school sat or no school sat, whether he was born in 1900 or 19, anything that has to do with, anything outside voting must be decided before voting. So that once the people, based on information available to them, cast their ballot, that no other person can, on any technical excuse of any pre-election matter, snatch a victory that he was not given. So that all pre-election matters must end before election. So that once we finish election, that jurisdiction that some of the tribunal is trying to assume by saying they have powers to discuss pre- and post-election issues of qualifications and nominations will be taken away from the tribunal and vested on the regular court, the Federal High Court, Appeal Court, and Supreme Court. So that once tribunal is constituted, the job of tribunal will be to determine whether you, the winner, scored a lawful majority vote, or whether the person who came second is the one that scores the lawful majority vote. So what the tribunal will be empowered to determine is who did the people truly vote for on that election day. Anything outside who the people truly voted for on that election day should not be part of the powers of the tribunal. That should be left to the regular court, which must discuss and end those issues before elections. These are some of the issues that we are proposing. We're also proposing an amendment to the Electoral Act to stop allowing INEC to exercise the powers of fixing the sequence of election because of the experience we have seen or the bandwagon effect that can happen when maybe a president emerges. That affects what happens in the state assembly and the governorship election because of those bandwagon effects. We're also proposing an amendment that we hope that our colleagues will also join us to support. That let's have a single day election. Let's have the House of the State Assembly, the governorship, the House of Rep, the Senate, the governorship, and the presidential election in one Saturday. The country will be saving money. We don't need to recruit hundreds of thousands of ad hoc staff for the next Saturday. So when the same transportation, the same ballot box, the same everything will have the same security expenditures we're going to run. So the country is going to save a lot of resources, and at the same time, it will bring high level of vigilance. Imagine having this state assembly, governorship, federal parliament, senate, and presidential. In that case, you're going to have almost over 5 party agents representing these different 5 candidates. Now imagine in some localities, state assembly candidate may be strong, in another place, the House of Rep. This will bring so much vigilance that we may not have this, one will not have this voter apathy because somebody may be interested in state assembly, may not be interested in presidential election day. But if elections are put in one day, somebody will be interested in presidential, somebody will be in rep, senate, state assembly. So the crowd you will see on that election day, everybody will troop out. And then there will be enough security on that day. So at the end of voting, once the state assembly result is announced, remember, that puts a cap on the accreditation. Because that same accreditation with which they announced the small House of Assembly seat in Ogbomosho, that the presidential election in Ogbomosho will be determined. So you run away from, by the time election finish, collection gets to the next day, and you see Kano or Rivers suddenly beating their figures and bringing 4 million. You cannot bring 4 million because earlier on that Saturday, the total accreditation had been used to declare Mr. A as a state assembly candidate. So if the person is state assembly candidate in an LUGA have 20,000 as accreditation, there's nothing that will happen by the time we get to Abuja Collection Center for the presidential candidate to now have 150,000 in that same local government where the man was declared winner with 20,000. Because part of our problem is people trying to bastardize accreditation, either increase it or lower it. So before midnight of Saturday, accreditation figure for the entire 774 LUG is already known because we have used it to declare the man who won for the House of Assembly. So we cannot get to Abuja and maybe somebody is losing the presidential election and then he calls the governor and the governor says, okay, let me see how I can do to raise some numbers for you. You cannot raise those numbers. So those are part of those amendments we are proposing. Then issues of the legislative agenda talked about on the viability or need for resident electoral commissioners. We also agree with that. We don't need the resident electoral commissioners being appointed by the executive. In terms of why not allow INEC, once you appoint the INEC chairman, allow the INEC chairman to appoint the resident electoral commissioner so they can have the power to hire and fire and ensure that those people do the right thing. Because when political leaders nominate resident electoral commissioners from their state, you now discover that some of these resident electoral commissioners may be loyal to the man who nominated them for those appointments. So allow INEC to use their staffs as resident electoral commission so they can fall within the disciplinary powers of INEC as a commissioner. That was also suggested in the legislative agendas, and I think also it's important that we'll find a way to give you legislative teeth. There's no need appointing 36 individuals who are not loyal to the INEC chairman, coming from nominations made by party leaders. It had been a problem when PDP was in power. It's also a problem when APC. So it's something that is a national problem that we must find a way to deal with it, because tomorrow you may not be in power, another party will be in power, and these things will continue to happen. We must find a way to find solutions to some of this. So there's a lot of things that needs to be done with our electoral laws to bring it up to speed with international standard.
And I think your suggestion of holding the presidential and gubernatorial the same day and the practice once is a replica of what was done in 2003.
Yes.
We had both elections.
And you saw the results that came out of it. Yeah.